Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. In today's video we are talking about another Echeveria called as Echeveria Dondo. Now guys, I'm going to be putting this under difficult because there are certain things that you need to remember while growing this variety. One of the reason being that this succulent does not like moist soil, it does not like a lot of humidity, and I'm going to be talking about it why so. Now I will put an image of this succulent when I initially had. Right now this succulent was kept in indirect bright light, so it's not stressed, it's more green in color. But when the succulent tends to stress, it looks absolutely beautiful. All of these edges that you're seeing right now will have the color red, and it right now it's more green in color, but the green color tends to fade and it becomes slightly light green in color with a lot of red edges. And if you're going to take a closer look at the leaves, you can see a little bit of the tips are red, and you can also see that there is a little bit of fuzzy hair kind of a thing on the succulent. I don't know what exactly it's called, but the leaves have very slight fuzz on the edges of the leaves, and then they tend to turn reddish in color. I will share an image if I happen to find. Probably it might not be a very clear image because it was taken a long time back, but this is how the Echeveria Dondo tends to look like. It's an extremely beautiful succulent, but as I said, it is little difficult to handle, especially when it comes to watering. So if you are a beginner, I would advise you to hold on to the thought, wait for some time, get some experience with succulents, and then you can add this in your collection. I had around 3 of them. I lost 2. I actually had 4 of them. I lost 2 of them due to watering issues, and one I had sent it to one of my friend. Unfortunately, after 2 days of receiving the succulent, she lost the succulent again. There was some issue with the succulent getting adjusted to the new environment. That's the reason why it's slightly tricky with this succulent, though it looks extremely beautiful. I would suggest, if you can keep this succulent underwatered, not a lot, but try to keep it slightly underwatered rather than watering it much frequently. Try to keep the soil as dry as possible. If you are from a very humid environment, try using a terracotta concrete or unglazed clay pot so that it can take out all the excess moisture. Try to keep a very loose, porous and well draining soil, and wait for the soil to be completely bone dry, and only then go ahead and water it, because it has a very notorious nature of rotting, especially when there is moisture trapped in the soil. So you have to ensure that the soil is completely dry. Now luckily it's working out very well for me. I am using a plastic container because my soil tends to dry much faster in this environment, so it has been working out really well for me. But if you're just starting off with succulents, wait for some time before you add this in your collection. But I'm sure when you're going to look at this succulent, you will be tempted to buy. Now talking about soil, it remains the same. It has to be loose, porous, well draining. Ensure that you wait. Mealybugs are not much of an issue unless you tend to see any kind of bloom stalk. She is just about to bloom. I'm waiting for it to reach to a decent size, and then I'll just chop it off because I do not want to invite any aphids. Of late I have been getting a lot of aphids in my succulents, probably because a lot of my succulents have started to bloom. I'm not sure why, probably because of the change in environment. Almost 80% of my succulents are blooming, and it's a good thing for the succulent. It's a good thing that it's showing a sign that the succulent is appreciating the new environment. But from a collector's point of view, or from a point of view wherein you want to keep your succulents healthy, it is becoming a little difficult because I have to keep chopping them off, because the aphids are coming in every now and then. So just to maintain an aphid free zone, I have to chop off the blooms. Talking about propagation, you can wait for the pups to arrive. They will be around the lower portion of the succulent. You will see some pups coming up. Let them reach to a decent size and then separate them. Leaf propagation is also possible. This succulent does not have a evident stem unless it starts to stretch, but it does not have a evident stem like other Echeverias. Beheading is also possible, but only if you have an elongated or stretched stem. So propagation is pretty simple. Propagate it during the summers, which is their growing period. Do not do it during the winters. It's going to take a longer time for the leaves to propagate. If it tends to go dormant during the winters because it belongs to the Echeveria variety, very soon it's going to get into its growing period, which is the summers. I would advise try to keep the nutrient or the organic matter in your soil very less. As I said, it's a very I wouldn't say it's a very difficult or it's a very fussy plant, but it's always better to be on the safer side when it comes to a succulent like this, which does not require a lot of moisture in the soil, because when you tend to have organic matter in the soil, it also tends to retain moisture. So try to have a soil mix that tends to dry out much faster. Having an highly organic soil is going to cause a lot of problems to the succulent, so it's always better to be on the safer side and not add too much of organic matter in the soil. Talking about sunlight, yes, it does require a good amount of sunlight. A morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours would work out really well. Only then you will be able to see the stress colors when you tend to expose it to morning direct sunlight. Now, do not keep the succulent indoor, do not keep it in shade. You have to give it a good amount of light, otherwise it will start to stretch. If you are growing it indoors for whatever reason, ensure that you have a good quality of grow light in order to keep the succulent compact. Talking about acclimation, yes, you will have to acclimate it, because right now you can see it's very green. If I'm going to expose it suddenly to morning direct sunlight, all of the leaves will get burnt, so I have to do a slow introduction towards the soil, towards the sun. Probably I will start with 30 minutes, next day 1 hour, the third day 1 hour 30 minutes, and this is how I acclimate it before putting it out to direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours. So there is a long process of acclimation. It has to be done slow. You have to do a slow introduction in order to save your succulent leaves from getting burnt. Because when the succulent leaves tend to get burnt, usually it's the crown area that tends to get burnt. And once you have the burnt leaves, it completely spoils the look of your succulent, so you do not want to do that. There is no hurry. You can always keep your succulents in indirect bright light if you're scared of burning your succulents. But if you want to have those colors, then you have to expose it to morning direct sunlight. But whenever you're doing that, always do a slow introduction. Do not put them suddenly in morning direct sunlight. Even though morning direct sunlight is very mild, it will still burn the leaves. So I will be doing a very slow introduction. As and when the colors appear, I will definitely show you guys an update of it. As I said, I'm going to find a picture. If I've already found the picture, I am going to put it on the video to show it to you. I lost 3 of them. It went to one of my friend, and it didn't get acclimated to the new environment, so it was lost. 2 were lost because of my mistake. I was still trying to understand the growing conditions, and I happened to overwater it and it died off. It usually tends to get a crown rot when they are overwatered, so it's very fragile when it comes to watering. So the most important thing, I would say the difficult part is about watering. So if you are a beginner, just hold on to the thought and wait for some time till you gain a good amount of experience. But if you already have this variety, the Echeveria Dondo, then I would suggest keep a little lower side on the watering, slow down on the watering, and wait for the succulent to ask for watering. The succulent will let you know either by closing inwards or by putting out a lot of wrinkles on the lower leaves, and then it was a sign that the succulent is thirsty. So that's all about Echeveria Dondo. I have put it in difficult, but if you have an experience with succulents and watering succulents, then it could be an easy succulent for you. But for a lot of beginners, it is going to be a difficult succulent, especially when it comes to watering. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.